As the years pass, life begins to slow down in ways that are both gentle and profound. The noise of ambition fades, the urgency of chasing fades with it, and what remains is a quiet space within a space that asks to be understood rather than filled. Inner calm is not merely the absence of chaos. It is the strength to stay centered when everything around you changes. It is the peace that comes from accepting life's impermanence and one's place in it. In the later years, this calm becomes less of a choice and more of a necessity, a soft resting place for the heart. For those who learn to live from that stillness, even the smallest moments hold extraordinary depth. The stillness of the soul becomes the truest companion of age. There was a time when we believed that control meant safety, that to manage every outcome was to secure peace. But age teaches differently. The Stoics remind us that we cannot command the wind, only the sail. Inner calm rises not from control, but from the surrender of it. When we stop fighting the flow of life, we begin to float effortlessly upon it. Each wave, whether gentle or rough, carries us where we need to go. True wisdom lies not in resistance, but in graceful acceptance. And sometimes, letting go is the highest form of strength. In our youth, we often chase happiness as if it were a distant prize. We build plans, chase dreams, and shape identities around what we think life should be. But as we grow older, we begin to see that happiness was never hidden. It was simply quiet, waiting beneath the noise. The calm mind recognizes this truth, that joy does not need to be pursued, only noticed. When we sit quietly and breathe deeply, we realize that peace has always been within us, patient and still. Happiness, after all, was never lost, it was only overlooked. The Stoic view of fate, or amor fati, invites us to love whatever happens, not merely to endure it, but to embrace it fully. Life, with all its turns and twists, becomes a partner rather than an adversary. To love fate is to find meaning even in loss, beauty even in endings. The calm heart does not argue with destiny, it converses with it. And in that quiet acceptance, suffering dissolves into understanding. Every event, no matter how difficult, becomes part of the tapestry that shapes the soul. There is a certain dignity in aging with calmness. The wrinkles on our faces tell stories of endurance, not defeat. The slower pace of our steps speaks of wisdom, not weakness. When the storms of life come, the old tree does not resist, it bends. So too should we, for in flexibility lies survival, and in calmness grace. Age does not strip us of purpose, it refines it. The calm elder knows that the truest victories are not loud, but silent. The modern world teaches us to keep moving, to stay busy, to never stop producing. But calmness rebels against that. It whispers that rest is sacred, that silence is nourishment. When we slow down, we begin to hear the world again, the birds, the breeze, even our own thoughts settling like dust after a long storm. The calm mind is not idle. It is observant. It knows that reflection is as valuable as action. And in stillness, life reveals its deeper music. Fear often accompanies age, the fear of loss, of frailty, of the unknown that lies ahead. But calmness teaches us that fear cannot survive in the presence of acceptance. To face mortality with peace is the ultimate Stoic act. We do not control how long we walk this earth, but we can choose how gracefully we walk it. The calm heart meets the inevitable not with resistance, but with reverence. To die peacefully, one must learn first how to live peacefully. The more we age, the more we understand that the world's noise cannot touch what is inwardly still. Calmness is a fortress built not of walls, but of wisdom. When the mind no longer seeks approval, no criticism can wound it. When we no longer demand permanence, no change can unsettle us. The Stoics called this ataraxia, tranquility of the soul. It is the crown of a life lived with awareness, a peace that no one can take away. Every hardship carries within it a quiet invitation to pause, to reflect, to grow. We may not see it at first, but every burden polishes the soul like a stone in the river's current. Calmness allows us to see pain not as punishment, but as a teacher. It whispers lessons in patience, humility, and endurance. And with each trial faced without anger, we reclaim a piece of our strength. Suffering, when met with calm acceptance, becomes transformation. There's an art to doing nothing, a wisdom often lost in a world obsessed with doing everything. To sit quietly, without distraction or purpose, is not laziness. It is presence. The Stoics often meditated on the brevity of life, not to fear it, but to appreciate it more deeply. In those still moments, we remember that existence itself is a miracle. Calmness brings us back to that realization again and again. For in the quiet, we rediscover what truly matters. Relationships, too, change as we grow older. The calm heart no longer clings or demands. It appreciates. Love, once fiery and loud, becomes gentle and enduring. We stop expecting others to complete us, for calmness has already made us whole. In acceptance, we find deeper connection. The most beautiful relationships are not those that excite the heart, but those that soothe it. True love, like calmness, asks for nothing, it simply is. When faced with disappointment, the calm person does not curse the world. Instead, they look inward and ask what lesson lies hidden beneath. Every unfulfilled expectation is a chance to practice equanimity. The Stoic sees that peace depends not on events, but on perception. When the mind is steady, no loss can break it. And in time, we realize that disappointment itself is a gift. It points us back toward inner strength. Calmness gives us the space to listen to ourselves, to others, to the rhythm of life. In silence, understanding blossoms. The angry speak loudly, but the wise listen quietly. To be calm is not to be indifferent. It is to see clearly without being disturbed. When we listen with stillness, we hear beyond words. Every person, every moment, becomes a mirror reflecting our own growth. There are moments when the world feels heavy, when grief seems endless. But calmness reminds us that even sorrow has its season. Nothing lasts forever, not pain, not joy, not even us. This truth, once feared, becomes liberating. When we stop demanding permanence, we begin to cherish impermanence. Each passing day, each fading moment, becomes precious. Calmness does not deny loss, it teaches us to bow to it gently. To live with calmness is to live with presence. The past no longer haunts us, and the future no longer frightens us. Every breath becomes enough. In that awareness, even ordinary life feels sacred. Washing dishes, walking under the sun, or watching the evening fade all become acts of meditation. Calmness turns living into art, reminding us that beauty often hides in simplicity. Gratitude is the natural companion of calmness. When we are still, we begin to notice all that remains rather than all that is missing. The warmth of a morning cup, the softness of a quiet afternoon, the laughter that lingers long after conversation ends. Gratitude grounds us in the present and softens our judgments. The calm heart does not measure life by possessions, but by presence. Sometimes, calmness means choosing silence over reaction. Not because we have nothing to say, but because peace is more valuable than being right. The Stoic knows that every outburst costs energy. Every argument disturbs the soul. In stillness, we learn discernment to respond, not react. Silence, when rooted in wisdom, speaks louder than words. The calm person knows that restraint is not weakness, it is mastery. As we walk further along life's path, the storms do not necessarily stop, but we change in how we meet them. The calm person does not seek to escape hardship but stands within it unshaken. Life's weight remains the same, but our way of carrying it changes. That is the secret of inner calm. It doesn't remove burdens. It transforms how we bear them. The same stone that crushes one soul can strengthen another. In calmness, we find clarity. In clarity, we find acceptance. And in acceptance, we find peace. The Stoic journey is not one of escape, but of return to the self, to simplicity, to the unshakable center within. The later years of life offer this chance for return. When the noise fades, when ambition quiets, what remains is truth. The power of inner calm is not in changing life, but in finally seeing it as it is. There comes a time when calmness no longer feels like something to practice, but something that naturally rises. It is as if the storms we have endured have carved open a space within us, where peace can finally rest. The more we stop resisting what is, the softer our days become. Even the unexpected feels lighter when met with a calm heart. The Stoics would call this harmony, with nature living in rhythm, with the unfolding of things, rather than fighting against it. When we stop struggling, life starts to flow again. And in that quiet flow, we discover a serenity that cannot be taught, only lived. Calmness does not mean we no longer feel, but that we no longer drown in our feelings. It gives us the courage to sit beside pain without being consumed by it. When we can hold both joy and sorrow in the same breath, we begin to understand what it means to be whole. The later years bring losses that words cannot heal in, perhaps. That is the greatest gift of growing older, not the possessions we keep, but the peace we learn to hold. The storm will still come, but we will know they're passing. The world will still change, but we will remain still within it. Calmness is the final wisdom of Ajith's silent strength that turns life end into a gentle bow, not a struggle. And in that stillness, we finally find our way home.